Close your eyes for a second and picture this. You are walking into the design center Linz. The air smells like red clay. The crowd is already buzzing before a single ball has been struck. 28 players are on the entry list. 2 former champions of this very tournament are lurking somewhere in the draw. And you are 20 years old, you have never played a competitive clay match this entire season, and 115 million people back home are watching your every move like it is a national emergency. That is Alex Eala's reality. Right now, this week, in Austria. Hey everyone, welcome back to Courtside Classic. I am Mira, and if you have been here before, you know this is where we cover women's tennis with everything we have got, the drama, the context, the stories that the highlight reels miss. And today's story has been building for weeks, and I have been waiting to tell it properly. Because what is about to happen in Linz, Austria, is not just a tennis tournament, it is a statement. It is a reckoning. It is Alex Eala arriving on European clay for the first time in 2026 and facing a draw that was seemingly built to test every single thing she is made of. So let us get into it. Let us talk about what she is walking into, how she got here, what the training footage from Mallorca tells us, and why I genuinely believe that what happens over the next 7 days in Austria could reshape the entire conversation about this young woman's 2026 season. First, the field, because I need you to understand the weight of this draw before we talk about anything else. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open is a WTA 500 event, which means the ranking points on offer are serious, and the players who show up to collect them are not here for a holiday. Ekaterina Alexandrova is the top seed and the defending champion, world number 13. She won this tournament 12 months ago, and she knows these courts the way you know your own kitchen. Jelena Ostapenko is seeded and dangerous, the 2017 Linz champion, a former French Open winner, and one of the most explosively unpredictable players on the entire tour. When Ostapenko is on, she does not just beat you. She dismantles you before you have time to figure out what happened. Then there is Mira Andreeva, the young Russian who is having a quietly excellent season and entered Linz as the top seed. Barbara Krejcikova, a 2-time Grand Slam champion, is in the field. Karolina Pliskova, a former world number 1 and Grand Slam finalist, is there on a protected ranking. We also have Katie Bolter, Sorana Cirstea, Lyudmila Samsonova, Daria Kasatkina, seasoned, experienced, clay-comfortable players who have been operating at this level for years. Emma Raducanu was initially in the draw and would have added yet another layer of intrigue to an already loaded field, but she confirmed her withdrawal this week due to ongoing recovery from a viral illness. And look, I genuinely hope Emma feels better soon because she is a player I love watching. But her absence does not soften this draw. It just removes one headline and leaves all the substance completely intact. What we are left with is a WTA 500 field that reads like a gauntlet specifically engineered to find out what Alex Eala is actually made of. 4 Grand Slam champions in the draw, 2 former Linz champions, indoor red clay, which Eala has not competed on at tour level since Roland Garros last year. And a draw ceremony that could, depending on how the bracket falls, put her directly across the net from one of those former champions as early as the second round. There is nowhere to hide in a 28-player draw. There is no soft landing in a field like this. Every match is a test, and Eala is entering it unseeded. After her ranking slipped from a career high of 29 down to 45 following the Miami loss, she comes into Linz without the seeding protection that separates players from the most dangerous quarter of the draw from the very first round. She is projected around the 7th seed position in some analyses, but she does not have that protection officially, which means the bracket could be ruthless, which means she has to earn everything, which, honestly, knowing everything we know about this woman, that feels exactly right. Now let us talk about Miami for a moment, because we cannot tell the Linz story honestly without going back there first. 16 days ago, Eala walked off the court in Miami after a 0-6, 2-6 loss to Karolina Muchova in the round of 16. It was her heaviest defeat of the entire hard court swing, one of the most lopsided score lines of her season. She had come into that match riding 3 consecutive wins, including a gutted, brilliant 3-set comeback against Laura Siegemund. She had the momentum, she had the crowd. And then Muchova, a former top 10 player, a Grand Slam finalist, one of the most tactically creative players on the tour, simply took the match apart in a way that left very little room for anything other than honesty. It cost her 16 ranking spots. It stung. It was supposed to sting. And here is what she said afterward. Not excuses, not deflection, not the kind of corporate non-answer that players retreating behind media training tend to give. She said, and I am paraphrasing because this is courtside classic, and we respect intellectual property here. She made it a point to say that she chooses to always be grateful for what she has. In the aftermath of the worst result of her hard court season, she chose gratitude. Not performance gratitude, not press conference gratitude, the real kind, the quiet kind, the kind that tells you something essential about who a person is when things do not go their way. And then she went back to work. Within days of that Miami loss, footage emerged from the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. Training reels on indoor red clay, not hard court, not a general fitness session, but targeted, deliberate clay court work. Long rallies, physical, grinding, technical practice sessions on the identical surface she would be competing on in Linz. The Rafa Nadal Academy, for those who need a reminder, is not just a training facility. It is arguably the greatest clay court tennis laboratory in the world. It is where Rafael Nadal built 14 Roland Garros titles worth of muscle memory. It is where Eala has trained since 2018. She knows that clay. It knows her. And the footage this week showed a player who was not easing back in gently. She was locking in, fast, deliberately, with a clarity of purpose that should make every opponent in that Linz draw slightly uncomfortable. The timeline of her transition is worth sitting with for a second. Miami heartbreak on a Monday. Full clay sessions in Mallorca by Wednesday. Draw ceremony in Linz on Sunday. The compression of that preparation, the speed with which she converted the emotional weight of a bad loss into focused, surface-specific work, is not accidental. That is a choice. That is a statement made in sweat rather than words, which is the only kind of statement that actually matters in professional tennis. Personally, and I say this as someone who watches a lot of tennis and has seen a lot of players respond to difficult losses, the training footage from Mallorca this week told me more about Alex Eala's future than any result from the season. How a player responds to a humbling defeat is the truest measure of their ceiling. And her response was to get on a clay court within 72 hours and start solving the problem. That is not the behavior of someone who is satisfied with hard court success and hoping to coast. That is the behavior of someone who intends to win on every surface this sport offers. Now let us zoom out for a second, because Linz does not exist in isolation. It sits at the very entrance of the European clay court corridor, the stretch of tournaments that flows directly into Stuttgart, Madrid, Rome, and ultimately Roland Garros. Eala is scheduled to compete at Stuttgart immediately after Linz, then Madrid, then potentially Rome, before the French Open in late May. Every ranking point she earns in Austria carries forward. A quarterfinal run in Linz could stabilize her comfortably inside the top 40. A semifinal could push her back toward the career-high territory she was occupying just 2 weeks ago. A title run, and yes, I am going to say it because stranger things have happened, would be genuinely seismic. But beyond the ranking math, there is something larger at stake here. Eala's clay season is being watched by the Filipino community as a referendum. Her hard court breakthroughs, the Goff win at Indian Wells, the deep Miami run, the wins over top 20 players that made the tennis world sit up and pay attention, those were extraordinary. But clay is different. Clay is where European tennis royalty has historically been decided. Clay is where the names on the all-time greats list were cemented. And the question that has been quietly circulating in tennis circles since Eala began her rise is whether her game translates, whether the left-handed forehand that Zeynep Sanmez described as making opponents feel like they never have enough time works just as devastatingly when the ball bounces higher and the points last longer. Whether the aggressive, line-hugging style that has made her so difficult on hard courts can be adapted for a surface that rewards patience as much as power. Linz is the first answer, not the complete answer. That comes at Roland Garros, but the first one. And the Filipino tennis community knows it. The social media activity around her Mallorca training footage this week was not casual fan enthusiasm. It was organized. It was intense. Hashtags tracking her clay preparation were trending across platforms. Major Philippine sports outlets were dissecting the training footage frame by frame, analyzing her footwork, her preparation time on the backhand, her court positioning. These are fans who have educated themselves about the technical demands of surface transitions because their champion is about to face them. That level of engagement does not come from casual interest. It comes from love. Deep, committed, we will follow you to Austria love. And here is what I keep coming back to when I think about what makes Eala's situation at Linz so genuinely compelling. Alexandrova and Ostapenko have every surface advantage. They have played on this clay before. They have won on this clay before. They know its rhythms, its demands, its particular cruelties. They are coming into this tournament as exactly what they are: experienced, dangerous champions on a surface they have mastered. But neither of them carries 115 million people into every match. Neither of them has training footage being analyzed frame by millions of passionate fans searching for signs that their champion is ready. Neither of them knows what it feels like to be the embodiment of an entire nation's sporting hope on a global stage. That is not a disadvantage for Eala. It is a resource. It is fuel. And the pattern of her career suggests she knows how to use it. Because here is what the trajectory actually looks like when you step back and see the whole picture. WTA 125 titles came first, then WTA 250 breakthroughs, then deep runs at WTA 1000 events, then victories over top 20 players in Indian Wells and Miami. Each level arrived faster than the one before it. Each surface transition, from juniors to professionals, from smaller events to premier draws, followed the same arc: doubt, preparation, execution. That arc has not failed yet. And Linz is simply the next data point in a trajectory that has consistently rewarded the people who believed in her early. The WTA itself acknowledged this in the language it used to preview the tournament. When the organization that runs the sport frames its event preview around the phrase "past champions lead Linzfield, Eala to make debut," and places a 20-year-old's first appearance at this tournament in the same editorial breath as defending champions, that is not accidental. That is a calculation about who moves the needle for global viewership. That is the institution of women's tennis telling you in its own official language that this young Filipino star is a headliner now, not a developing prospect, not a curiosity, a headliner. And so here we are, April 2026, indoor red clay, the Design Center Linz, a draw full of champions, a nation watching, a 20-year-old who responded to her worst loss of the season by choosing gratitude, getting on a clay court within 72 hours, and preparing with the kind of surgical focus that tells you everything about what she intends to do next. She is not walking into Linz hoping to survive. She does not do hoping to survive. She walks into every building she enters with the preparation, the backing, and the specific, concentrated intent to make something happen. Whether that means a quarterfinal, a semifinal, or something nobody in Austria is quite ready for yet, I genuinely do not know. Clay is hard. Alexandrova is dangerous. Ostapenko can end a match before you have had time to adjust. The field is real and the challenge is real, but so is she. Laban Alex. Austria is waiting, and so are we. All right, courtside classic. This is where I need you. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. How far does Eala go in Linz? First round exit as she finds her clay legs? Quarterfinal? Or does she do something completely unexpected and make us all look like we underestimated her again? I genuinely want to know what you think, because this community has been right about her before the rankings caught up before, and I trust your instincts. If this video got you excited for the clay season, hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps more people find this channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to Courtside Classic, now is the moment. Linz starts April 6th, Stuttgart follows immediately after, Madrid is right behind it. This clay swing is going to move fast, and every week is going to bring something new. Subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss a single update, because on this channel, We do not just report what happened. We tell you why it matters. See you in the next one.